Mangwanani vatariri nevateereri tinokushingamizai kuchirongwa che VOA Zimbabwe neMedia Center Roundtable Discussion tichitarisa mashoko akaturwa nemutungamiri wenyika Comrade Emerson Mnangagwa kumusangano weUnited Nations General Assembly uri kuitwa kuNew York. Zita rangu ndinonzi Godwin Mangudya, ndakamirira Voice of Zimbabwe, Voice of America Zimbabwe Service.
I'm the National Coordinator of the Zimbabwe National Editors Forum.
Indeed, Jeffrey Moyo, Director in New York Times in Zimbabwe.
I'm a freelance journalist in Seven Media Center.
I'm here as representative of Organizing for Zimbabwe Trust.
I'm from the organization.
Igamelanga ngoChenesani Ntungakwa. Okwami umsebenzi we-research ukudingisisa ukuthi imbali yelizwe yabe siyangaphelela.
Sitara mutinonzi Masimba Manyanya ndizosenza neCRT Zimbabwe.
Sitara munonzitapazwa ngangano zvemutapwena.
Costa Nkomo 263 chat.
Salibonani balaleli, igama lami nguLucy Yasini, ngitathela izindaba, ngisebenza ngizimele ngesikhiwo se-freelance journalist.
Makadini sitara kundozi Clarice Matuku ndichimirira sangano rechidiki rinonzi Platform for Youth Development Trust.
Makadini sitara kundoitwawo Nyasha Nawo ndichinyora kuHope Magazine Disability Column.
Vanjavulo Ncube, ndingati makaona mutungamiri wenyika vachitaura. Ndezvipi zvamungati zvikuru zvakabuda pamashoko akaturwa nemutungamiri wenyika neZuro Manero?
To me, said the obvious expected noises at the UN General Assembly. The way I'm seeing it, the way I'm seated, is that what you said was obvious, just to justify his victory at the global platform. In a way, to try to deal with what I can say is a legitimacy crisis. So that speech was expected. Yes, he spoke also. Apologized about the shootings that happened on one podcast and referred to the commission, that the commission of inquiry. Again, it brings us back to the issue of dealing with the legitimacy issue. He also sold his Zimbabwe's open for business mantra, which seems to be what is driving his government. That was another right noise there. He also, as an African leader, touched on the Sahrawi issue and the Palestine issue. I see him trying to position himself as a Pan-Africanist, trying to follow the footsteps of Mr. Mugabe, although he appears to not have generated a lot of interest, unlike what Mr. Mugabe used to do. Maybe also he spoke about his vision for economic recovery, but they say the test of the pudding is in the eating. So whether or not his speech will resonate with the people with the people at home, it's something that I leave it to other panelists to discuss. But to me, those are the issues that I think he raised and people took note of them.
Mr. Manyanya, anything good coming from the president's speech at the UN? How did you find it?
The impression I'm getting from the president's speech is that the president is eager to endear himself to the West, presumably to get investment and all that, and the noise that we have heard about Zimbabwe is open for business, and he's eager to go past that quickly so that he can people can forget about his political legitimacy issues. It's good that Zimbabwe gets investment, but there's a lot of uncertainty in the country right now that government has to deal with. We are not quite clear what kind of development model government is pursuing. We are seeing a government that is eager to make Zimbabwe a country, to project Zimbabwe as a country that is a safe destination for investment. But at the same time, you go around Zimbabwe right now, you find that dissent is not tolerated, democracy is not appearing on the streets. I think it's the typical Chinese model where the Chinese appear here to be very much pro-investment, pro all the freedoms, but you go back where they come from. So there's a lot of questions that emerge from his address.
Muruginzwa nyaya iri kutaurwa panapa vanotungwa semaonero enyu tanzwa vamwe vachitaura kuti vaMunangagwa havana zvizhinji zvavakataura zvavanenge vakangotaura semaitiro aiita vaimbori mutungamiri wenyika vaRobert Mugabe. Vamanyanya vanotaurawo kuti panenge pasina kujeka zvivari kutaura kuti vanoda kuwanidza upfumi but urongwa hwavo hakuna kunatso kujekei. Saka imiwo munoona sei mashoko emutungamiri wenyika?
Mina ngathi ngamafitshane akula lutho olukhulu mbeni lutho olwesabisayo olwakhulunywa ngupresident u-ED. Mangisitsho njalo a slight digression into English. The shootings that took place in this country were very unfortunate. They were not the first shootings, but the president only apologized about those shootings at the UN. He was supposed to apologize about those shootings within the country. For me, setting up a commission of inquiry is one of the many issues. We go back to economics of fiscus. That commission will require money just to investigate shootings that took place in a day, which the president, the precedence to those shootings is well aware. So in short, I can say, to me, it was a normal speech. When I'm saying a normal speech, a normal head of state must talk about investment. Like what Mr. Njabulo Ncube said, they must talk about other countries, other regions, even if they are very far. Polisario, France, Sahrawi, Middle East, Palestine. Those kind of issues always will want to make somebody appear like a revolutionary. For now, I can stop there.
Right, nevatori venhau vakawanda panapa vanogara vachinyora nyaya idzodzi. Tingati semaonero enyu makaona sei mashoko emutungamiri wenyika anofadza here? Zvandiri kunzwa ndezvekuti vataura pari zvino vanoita sokuti normal speech ndo zvaitarisirwa kunge zvichiitika. Saka imiwo sevatori venhau toda kunzwa kwamuri makatsununga kutiudza kuti makazviona sei?
Mina ubona kwami inkulumo yakhe ayimangalisi njalo ayilasisindo. Umuntu nje ohambe ngale e-UN okwakuqala umuntu ade vele ekhangelela ukuthi abe ngobusayo, and then sesiyakhuluma inkulumo yakhe ahleze ikhuluma. Kodwa into ekumele sikhangelisise ukuthi nxa sithi yena Zimbabwe is open for business, thina-ke abantukazana lapha eZimbabwe simi ngaphi ngaleyo inkulumo yakhe open for business? Is it open for business kubangani bakhe ezitholela izimali zakhe bezidlela bona abaphezulu, kumbe yikuthuthukisa ilizwe? Sikhangela lokwenzakala elizweni khathesi siyabona abantu baxotshanisana, bayachaywa, kwenziwa yonke inyakanyaka eyenzakalayo, kodwa sibe lo mkhokheli welizwe ohamba ngale sithi Zimbabwe is open for business. Nxa ilizwe lile image embi kangaka, ngubani ongabuya ezefaka imali yakhe elizweni lapho okule ngxabangxoza yonke yona le eyenzakalayo? Yikho mina zithi inkulumo yakhe ayimangalisi, lakho ukuxolisa yikuqholoza, ngoba vele wayemela aqala axolise lapha eZimbabwe khona mhlana wakhona abantu bedutshuliwe. Nawo sesiyaxolisa emzini kodwa akaxolisanga ekhaya, katshelanga abantu bekhaya ukuthi kumzwisa ubuhlungu wayephonga uqhamanda njengazwakala ukuthi uthini sesiyaxolisa sekuphela inyanga ezingaki kutshoni khonokho ngumkhokheli onjani ngumuntu nje ohambe ngale ukuthi la yayibonakala phakathi kwabanye kwezinye inkokheli akhuluma ukukhuluma okungavela enhliziyweni okungatsho lutho.
My understanding of the president's address at the United Nations last night is it contains two sides. I think we need to approach his address from a very neutral perspective. I think we have become victims of, buzz speeches of Robert Mugabe whenever he appears, or whenever he appeared, on the international stages. And to my understanding, though I seem to differ with many people who have spoken before me, is that, yes, of course, whether it was a repetition of Mugabe's style or it was not, but the issues, they cannot be said they are not important because they have been repeated by a different person. So whether they are being raised for the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, and 10th time, it doesn't make them not important. They still remain important. When I was listening, when I was watching this morning his presentation, because I didn't get an opportunity last night, I noticed that, he emphasized on the irreversibility of the land reform, which I believe that we all agree that it was a correction of a historical imbalance. And that the noble or rational correction would only mean the natives, that is the indigenous people of Zimbabwe, getting back their land. And you must appreciate that it's one of the things which is driving the Southern African politics, which have been realized later by our neighbors in South Africa, as we have seen recently, their call for land reform. So saying it clearly that is an irreversibility is a very big item. It's a very important issue, so that whoever wants to invest in Zimbabwe will never ever target that area, because it's something which is important. However, it is said that the manner in which the land program came in, it has to be appreciated that it came at the price of death of other people who had contributed to the reputation which this country get at some point in time. It became a bread basket of Africa. But those people who contributed to it were killed under the auspices of land reform, you see. Secondly, we have to look at the issue of illegal sanctions. That is real. Sanctions are hitting, and that must be understood. It's not a disputable thing or item. Sanctions are not good, and they must go. However, as I said in my opening remarks, that you have to look at this with two eyes, not closing one and opening the other. Illegal sanctions are illegal, and they must be removed. Whoever holds Zimbabwean interest, or whoever is patriotic to his country, must realize and agree with this stance by President Mnangagwa. However, we need to appreciate the background in which they were introduced. The sanctions were introduced on the back of the killings which were happening in this country. There are some white farmers, that was not only killings, some were raped, some were tortured, indescribable, inhuman experiences which people suffered, especially from the 2000s when a cocktail of inhuman laws were being promulgated, the likes of IPA, the likes of POSA, you name them. So you need to understand from his call for sanctions to go, the missing link is to appreciate that the background in which they were introduced, we have departed from that past. We must agree in this house that he has demonstrated signs which shows the zeal to shift, to implement or to institute a new country, a new Zimbabwe, different from Robert Mugabe. And we have to appreciate that. We have seen this during the campaigning period. We have seen this during the election time. Regrettably, obviously, something which does not sit well with me right now as a citizen of Zimbabwe, the shootings which happened on the 1st of August. And it is said that responsibility have not been taken. And it has appeared to be shifted and shouldered on the shoulders of the opposition. That's not frank. When you appear on a global stage, you just need to be truthful. or the least you can do maybe is to sideshow or to leave that item out, because it leaves, you know, the reputation of somebody who wants to reform, especially in the person of the president, you know, throwing everything into the pit. Then my last item is, he touched on the climate change. So if people can't see important issues that President Mnangagwa raised, we need to revisit. Give yourself enough time to watch that speech. The climate change is a serious issue and a very relevant issue, and is hitting beyond borders, as he said. It hits somebody who is in Zaraba and Kwaita Oil. It hits somebody who is in Berengwa, in Cholocho, everywhere. South Africa, anywhere else, in any corner of the world. So I think from his speech, we have to appreciate the good things that he raised and also hint on the things that he missed. We must be frank with that. Thanks so much.
Joinwa na mkoma Richard Mahomba. Tiriku zeya mashoka akataurwa nemutungamiri wenyika neziromane United Nations. Zvikuru zvamakabata kubva ikoko ndezvipi uye zvatingati zvingabatsira nyika. Vataura ikoko tine tariro here kuti zvavakataura zvichaitwa kumusha kana kuti zviri kutoitwa kumusha. He spoke, for instance, he called for opening up of the democratic space, called for peace and unity, tolerance of divergent views. Do we have this in Zimbabwe?
Basically, maybe I think we need to start off with the posture and the tone of President Emmerson Mnangagwa, in the sense that he was depicting a migration of the posture. If you look at his predecessor and him, that there is a migration in terms of how he has been pitching issues. And to me, it is showing us how much through him, Zimbabwe is now ready to be part of the diplomatic space. Because as you recall, in diplomacy is a site of negotiation. You do not enter into a diplomatic space and forget the structural realism of your involvement in a diplomatic space, to say there are norms that govern the interaction. But it is then important to then situate issues of national interest within the broader context of that particular diplomatic space. And his speech was accurate in the sense that he articulated that global peace, stability, and security are fundamental in cascading development from a multilateral context to diplomatic policies. And how then does his presentation respond to pertinent issues of democracy in Zimbabwe? He revisited the issue of the elections, how our elections were observed, and how we then need to migrate from mere political rhetoric to restructuring the economy, to ensuring that Zimbabwe is open for business. But most fundamentally, as we are opening up, we actually demystifying the notion that when we open up for business, we are giving influences of neoliberalism, where we would see Zimbabwe being subject to exploitation. And to substantiate that quite clearly, he spoke about the irreversible context of the land reform program, which to me also translates the irreversible framework of our entire economic indigenization initiatives. So to me, that is very fundamental in the sense that he has pitched the view that multilateralism that is grounded on being less confrontational and being less polemic, as we have seen with his former predecessor, creates cordial relations, in the sense that he even articulated that we need to be part of the global value chain, not only as Zimbabwe, but as Africa, not to go to international fora with this view that we were once subject to imperial conquest, and as a result, we are entitled to gain international favors. The world does not function like that. He actually depicted that Africa needs to work hard to make sure that it is part of the global value chain, not to be sustained by a polemic rhetoric which says, because we once colonized, therefore we demand an equal share. No, we work for an equal share. That is how global politics operates. Yiko-ke esikutshoyo ukuthi umbiko wethu lengu-President Emmerson Mnangagwa ufeza obala ukuthi nxa kulokuthula jikelele emhlabeni wonke kuyenza ukuthi amazwe wonke ikakhulu izwekazi le-Afrika ukuthi libonakale lisiba lokuthula, lokuthi izwekazi le-Afrika kufuze lisebenze gadalala ukuthi lizithuthukise kakhulu iZimbabwe Umbiko omuhle wethu lo ngumongameli kweze economy ubungowokufeza obala ukuthi kuqakathekile ukuthi amazwe ase-Africa esebenze ukuthi enelise ukufinyelela kulapho ezinye izizwe ezafinyelela khona. Yikho-ke sikubona ukuthi ekwethuleni kwakhe lo mbiko utshengisela ukuba lomehluko okuba ngundoda ophetheyo ngendlela enanzelela ukuthi umhlaba kawungeke waqhubeka ubanjelelwe ngemuva ngokwayenzakala kudala kodwa kufuze kube lengqubela phambili eyenza ukuthi izizwe zonke zithuthuke. Yikho-ke lokhu kuqakathekile njalo le ndaba yakhe yomhlabathi ayithintileyo ukuthi indaba yomhlabathi asoze sibuyele emuva lakho konke okuphathelane lokuthi amandla ezomkonomi eqhubeke esezandleni zabantu abesundu bedlelana labanye abakwamanye amazwe.
Thank you, Mkoma Richard. Mkoma Jeffrey Moyo. Ndimurogara mushonyora nyaya open for business. Makaiona sei nezuro manera?
Inini ngangoti kutaura kwaMnangagwa kunongova zvako kungokura kwemba isina mazino. VaMnangagwa vakataura vakatiwo Zimbabwe has made progress towards SDG goals. Zvino kana kutaura kuti Zimbabwe yaita zvakaita seizvezvi pakuachiva ma-SDG goals imo munyika mune chirwere chemudumbu. Chirwere chevanhu vanonzi mudumbu vachirwara netsvina. Iwoti Zimbabwe has made progress. Izvozvo zvinoratidza kuti mukuru vari kurasika. Hakusi kutaura kwechokwadi ikoko. VaMnangagwa zvavakataura vakati sarudzo dzakaitwa zvakanaka dzikabudirira futizve. Zvoreva kuti VaMnangagwa havasi kucherechedzawo kuchema kuri kuita vamwe nanhasi. Havasi kuda kutarisa zvimwe zvinhu zvakaitika mukati mesarudzo zviri kubudiswa namapato anopikisa. Vava kuenda kumberi kuUnited Nations unotaura kuti hai sarudzo dzakaita zvakanaka. Zviri nani vaitofara kutonyarara zvavo nyaya iyo yesarudzo. Kana nyaya yekuti ma-SDGs Zimbabwe yaachiva yafamba zvakanaka pakuachiva ma-SDG goals. Vaifara kutomboinyarara zvavo vototaura kuti tiri kuedza kuti tizame kuachivawo izvi kwete kuti vaita progress. Ivo vanhu vachirwara nemudumbu nguva ino. Makore atiri kurarama ano unotaura kuti Zimbabwe yachiva ma-SDG goals, ivo vanhu vachirwara nekolera. VaMnangagwa zvavakataura vakati vanoda kuti zvirango zveupfumi nikati ma-sanctions abviswe. Asi chinoratidza kuti vane chido chaicho chidokwa chekuti zvirango zveupfumi zvibviswe. Zvavari kuita chaizvo hapana zvinoratidza kuti vane chido chekuti zvirango zveupfumi zvibviswe. Handisi kuzviona ini semunyoro inawo.
Mashuka anokuda anoratidza kuti yakatarisa tinozokuti vanhu vanenge vasina mufaro nemashuka aya. Saka tikati apeno pana mumwe muonerero kuti mashuka tunadora akainspire nyika here kana kuti
maybe the issue around I think the elephant in the house, in the room right now here in Zimbabwe, is whether the socio-economic conditions will improve with this show early this morning or last night at the UN. That's the question. If you notice, we already have a precedent of these neoliberal policies, ESAP, with ESAP 1 and ESAP 2, I think. At the moment we have those free market economy, like that's how I'm seeing it saying last night. The prospects now for economic emancipation for the majority of Zimbabweans, to me, it's slim, or next to zero. If you look at what ESAP did, it ravished the lives of the ordinary people. So what has changed now that we're looking at these neoliberal policies to be our saviors? That's why I have a problem.
Yeah.
What I just wanted to highlight here, I'm one of those who are learning seriously from this discussion. But I believe in a learning process, you have to graduate. I'm one graduate from this discussion who will stand by one thing. There is nothing miraculous about the irreversibility of land reform. There is nothing miraculous. We started discussing land reform program when? When was Land Donor Conference in Zimbabwe? Back then, when Zimbabwe-British relations went down, partly because of that issue, I think then we're still in the Commonwealth. What the South Africans are copying today is because the ANC doesn't have a program, not because they believe in it. The ANC was never grounded from that ideology. They remain a very structural nationalist movement, very effective in Africa, that I believe. Irreversibility of the land reform does not make the legitimacy of a president. It's like it doesn't. Yes, it's like going to England and expect the British to exchange Benz for Volvo or Land Rover. This is now a character of our national policy. If we don't discuss land reform, we have nothing else to talk about for now. We don't have a manufacturing industry to discuss, do we? We don't have a value-added industry to talk about right now, do we? All what our president can do is to pick up this briefcase, go to UN and talk about the irreversibility of the land reform program. That's, to me, that's not heroic. That is what we have now. Even if we wanted to reverse it right now, we'll have to go around the country digging up A2s, replacing them with something that was there before. From a policy and practical point of view, that is not feasible. Now, finally, my point is this. I'm not as schooled as in the neoliberal issues you guys were raising, my comrades, Mahom. But what I can assure you is that we all have a market economy. Whether Zimbabwe 90%, my definition of a market economy right now is that Zimbabwe, as we sit right now, I live in Chitungwiza there. You have got somebody who sells ganja. You have somebody who does barbing. You know, you've got somebody who sells firewood. You've got somebody who digs boreholes. Demand and supply principles will tell you that if they offer their service at the market, there will be a price. An average baba will cost you $1, bond or use, depends on what you have. So this informal economy exists already, whether I'm thorough in my definition of market forces or not. What to me remains, and what I expected from the president yesterday, was a homegrown input at the UN of what Zimbabwe thinks can do. Finally, I don't know whether, you see, we're all dreaming about investors. Now, 38 years down the line, we have got somebody who is an adult, who is a 40-year-old today. A 30-year-old man now is bearded and old enough to have another child. We agree, in a biological way. Now, and to me, investors did never fail to come to Zimbabwe because of Robert Mugabe. I don't think so. My little understanding and my little reading of why economics is that we are slowly becoming a less relevant factor. Why? Because now there are options. The British, in their own foreign policy, they are working out to check the Brexit issue. It's not everywhere now that a British investor will put money. It's not everywhere. They're even reluctant to put money in Europe. Their neighbors, who were part of all whom were victims during World War II, and they will come down to Zim, where the Chinese are ravaging a black granite in Mtoko and ravaging chrome in Shurugu, in the Midlands. In short, what am I saying? For me, what I would have expected from the president yesterday was a homegrown model of what Zimbabwe thinks can do, whether or not that is attractive to investors. I don't think that the previous president, we can blame him. I don't blame him 100%. At the UN, the previous president was a nationalist. He might not have been a practical, a bread and butter man on the ground, but he was a nationalist. When he presented his issues at UN then, he had his own adversaries to deal with. Just like Trump the other day was saying the Chinese are trying to tamper with the election. And the Chinese responded. They said, no, we don't even have anything to do with this. So in short, what am I saying? That is what I would have expected the president, a homegrown model. Irreversibility of the land reform program to me is now a Zimbabwean character. It's like having a metal or plastic ID. You won't reverse this now in Zimbabwe. Thank you. Thank you.
I think interesting submission that the good colleague is bringing about. And it reminds me of learned friend or comrade. Yeah. But basically, I think what is fundamental from his submission also evokes another pertinent aspect of analysis, to say the issue of the land reform is a permanent feature of our national discourse. I think that's the underpinning statement, and that what President Mnangagwa presented was not anything new. And hence there was need for him to bring in a new narrative to what we're positing as part and parcel of global political economic reform, or input into that broader discourse. But really, for us to say the land reform issue, it is a non-issue, and forget that it is the mainstay of the economy and not worth mentioning at such an international forum, I think to me is a misplaced point of analysis. But let us look at the historical compelling factors of a reaffirmation of such a point. If you'd recall, with every political transition, particularly ours, which was unique in the sense that it was a civil and military aided transition, you discover that every political transition comes with new characters. And in the main political discourse, you discover that there's been paranoia or hesitance towards this thing called Zimbabwe is open for business, because there are existing or permanent fears that putting across such a policy would only result in exploitation, would only result in external resource plan. So for him to go at such an international forum, giving a maiden address of a second republic, it is fundamental to reaffirm our position on the land issue as a standing and as a permanent, as an imperishable policy, issue. For me, I think that was important. And again, for the aspect of Zimbabwe's openness to business, yes, we can argue that it is not going to have international political buy-ins, but you do not stop reasserting and reaffirming a particular political position simply because it is not marketable, simply because it is not going to be reciprocated. And again, there's an issue that was submitted regarding cancer, regarding cholera, I mean. You do not evaluate a nation's failure or success on the basis of a disaster outbreak, or on the basis of an epidemic, to say, oh, well, there is Ebola, which is a medieval disease. So it means that Zimbabwe is a country that is primitive and that statecraft is backward, simply because there is an outbreak that has emerged. So I think, to me, to want to evaluate the excellence of statecraft on the basis of an outbreak, to say because there is a medieval outbreak, it means that we are primordial. I think it is a narrow and a lazy point of analysis. It's my view.
I just have a brief submission in reference to the open for business narrative. I think in as much as he would like to say, as he said actually yesterday, that time for elections is gone, it's now time to focus on our business. It is good to juxtapose those statements that are made at international stages with the local at home, with what is happening at the moment. The open for business narrative is a very attractive phrase, seriously showing, reflecting the interest of opening the country for business, which I hope is not an open for exploitation. Secondly, I would want to give a reference of what I experienced in a couple of days where I am working. Juxtaposing this open for business narrative and imagining someone who will come into a country with such an atmosphere where tear gas become a daily bread. You are open for business at the United Nations, you are open for business to America, open for business to whichever country. But the locals here, they are being beaten by the police. I mean, the vendors, let's be precise. They're being tear gassed. So I mean, the environment itself, it needs an extra improvement so that whoever is interested to come will come having a guarantee, having an assurance that his employees will not be tear-gassed, that he himself as an employer will not be tear-gassed. I don't think at the moment, because we do need to improve the local environment. Plus, besides, we don't need a neighbor's endorsement before the locals themselves endorse the thing. You know, the elections, good luck for us, they have reflected that this country is nearly divided into two. You get the sense? We've got the opposition, Chamisa, getting 2 million plus votes, and then President Mnangagwa gets 2 million plus votes. You know, in one way or another, it's a clear distinction of the two. And there must be a massive national coordination program meant to restore, number one, social contracts. That we are talking of trust. Do people trust in the president, in the president who is an outcome of a disputed election? But thanks to the Constitutional Court, which is said to be neutral, has given a verdict and they have upheld the victory of President Emmerson Mnangagwa. But my point is clear here. Let's not be mistaken. The open for business discourse is a very attractive phrase, is a very good program, which must be cemented, solidified by having an atmosphere in which the citizens themselves, they celebrate to be in Zimbabwe. Right now, in a couple of days when I was feeling the test of a tear gas, I was thinking I'm a bad person. I mean, it's unfortunate to be a Zimbabwean. You know, you don't need such. You know, you need to enjoy, you need to feel free, you need to have a friendly environment that will obviously persuade and attract others to come in.
Zviri kubuda ndezvokuti mashoko aMnangagwa anonzi akanaka chose, asi handizvo zvavari kuita zvavakataura kuUN. Mukoma Jeffrey, mune maonero akasiyana here?
I want to quickly respond to my brother Mahomva. We should not lie to ourselves that cholera is not a medieval or primitive disease. It's a primitive disease. Have you gone to Botswana or Namibia in the head of cholera outbreak in Botswana? Have you gone to Germany in the head of a cholera outbreak in Germany? We should not lie to Mnangagwa that he has made strides in making Zimbabwe achieve SDG goals. That's a lie. I'm not shallow when I'm saying cholera is a primitive disease. It's indeed an ancient disease. When people are drinking dirty water mixed with feces, and you say that is okay. No. It's dead. It's dead. The cholera is a primitive disease. It's an ancient disease. I'm not shallow.
I'll not dwell on the issue of personalities, but I'll dwell on the issue of the resources and what will term maybe the Third World War on resources in the world. We know China is trying to position itself in the world as the superpower, and it is actually using something called the Belt and Road Initiative, whereby they are trying to channel their resources to poor countries, and then they will manipulate their way into getting something for free from those countries, because these poor countries would have failed to repay the loans. Zimbabwe is likely going to be one of those countries very soon. Mnangagwa, when he was being interviewed before the UN speech yesterday, he actually said that Zimbabwe was not viable to such a trap, which is called a debt trap. But if we look closely inside the country, yes, Mnangagwa is there, the UN is saying quite a lot of things. The wording itself of his speech, it was brilliant. If someone were to listen and doesn't know where Zimbabwe is, they would think Zimbabwe is, everything in Zimbabwe is okay. Yeah, it's super, it's brilliant, everything is okay. Come to Zimbabwe, then you look at the mining resources, you look at the wildlife, you look at the diamonds, you look at even the infrastructure that is being built by the Chinese, then you juxtapose on the issue of the interest of the Chinese, the interest of the European Union, and then you, EU, then you also juxtapose on the interest of the Americans. You find that the three Americans, British involved, the EU, and then the Chinese, including the Russians, they're actually fighting for resources in Zimbabwe. Then at the end of the day, when it then comes to the issue whereby the president says that Zimbabwe is open for business, this new liberal approach that Mnangagwa is trying to sell to the international world, Zimbabweans should learn and should read and should open their eyes. At the end of the day, this neoliberal approach does not work, and it doesn't serve the interest of the locals. It serves the interest of the Chinese, the Russians, the British, and the Americans. These people can be enemies at the moment. They will be fighting in the international media, but when it comes to local interests for the Americans, they would rather join hands with the Chinese to make sure that Americans benefit from what is in Zimbabwe. Same applies to British, France, Russia, and even the Chinese themselves. So at the end of the day, we are the ones who are likely going to suffer 20 years down the line. This is called the Second Republic, or maybe new dispensation and so forth. But we need to wake up as Zimbabweans and see closely what is really happening. Why is Mnangagwa coming today toned down? He's refusing to talk about the Gukura Hundi, in which he was part of. He's refusing to talk about the issue of the Murambachina, which he was part of, the corruption which took place in Zimbabwe over a period of maybe 30 years. He was part of that. Up to now, a number of things are happening in Zimbabwe. He's now in power, but he's failing actually to articulate most of the things regarding corruption. If you look now at the way he's doing it, for instance, Kasukuwere, he has been arrested how many times now? But the bottom line is, it becomes predictable that he goes to the police, maybe less than 24 hours, he goes to court. While he's in court, he's given bail, he goes back home, he starts running his businesses again. Tomorrow he's arrested, or someone else is arrested. The template is the same. And they're hoodwinking us into believing that now they are dealing with corruption. But which corruption? Who has been sentenced? Maybe those who have been sentenced are those who are close to Robert Mugabe. But even Robert Mugabe himself is flying on chartered flights at the behest of the Zimbabweans poor who are failing even to get medicines at the end of the day. Yes, the issue of the MDGs, you call them SDGs now. Yeah, he articulated them in a certain way, because this is a global thing. It's not just privy to Zimbabwe. Some of the things he said in his statements were correct, but the bottom line is there are a number of things that is lying to the international world regarding where Zimbabwe is coming from and where it's going, especially the interests of the international world, Russia, China, British, and America.
My sister next to John, at any point, or when I can see all of you itching to make a point.
Thank you very much. I think my contribution is on, personally, I believe this is a positive development at the moment, where Zimbabwe is on the spotlight, whether it's on the negative side or positive, because Zimbabwe was always described as a pariah state. So other nations, whether we're going to announce at an international forum, we're going to say, no, that is the norm. That's what comes from Zimbabwe. But now I think there's another form of attention or spotlight on Zimbabwe, which is very positive. Now, what I believe that is in how we are going to respond to the spotlight. Are we going to really, like what my colleague said, are Zimbabweans going to celebrate this spotlight socially, economically, and politically? Are they going to enjoy this spotlight? Are they going to benefit from the spotlight that now Zimbabwe is currently enjoying, where every country now is saying this is a second republic? What are they going to say? Yes, we can say, look at Mnangagwa saying this, or ZANU-PF is in power. But what is of paramount importance is at the local, how are we going to match or to interlink this international spotlight with the local livelihood, the social in economic and political parameters? Are there instrument mechanism that this government is going to put in place so that the Zimbabweans are going to say, yes, we are on the spotlight, but they are now transforming their lives. It's transforming the way they interact with each other. They are transforming the way they are seeing each other. Because at the moment, like what my colleague said when he said, there's a narrow gap between our opposing forces in Zimbabwe politically. But now, when you come to a Zimbabwean discourse, do we see in the same way? Or we are still confined to our political corners and say, I'm in this political corner and the other person is in that political corner. But at the moment, we need to say, as Zimbabweans, how are we going to take advantage of this spotlight? Thank you very much.
Yeah, comrade vari kubva mukutaura izvinezvi vabata chaizvo nyaya yekutiyo isu semazimbabweans tiri kuda kuti tiite celebrate handiti the limelight iripo, pane shuwiro, pane kudokwairira kuri kuitika muhana yemuzimbabwe. We want to be able to have confidence in those people who represent us on national and international fora. Now, I'll bring your attention to the economy. Toti isisu ngatitarirei tinyatsobatana tione kuti tinokwanisa kuita here confidence kana mutungamiri achibuda pa-UN. You see, these are the real practical issues, because kana uchida confidence unoda zvinhu zviri practical, zviri realistic, zvinenge zvichitaurwa nema-leaders yedu on national and international fora. Kana mutungamiri achitaura iye kuti ndoda kuti ndidzoke kwamuri comrade imi, vachitaura kuti within 12 years nyika inenge yasimudza per capita income to $3,500 kubva patiri iko zvino. Within 12 years, by 2030, Zimbabwe inenge ya middle income economy. Tinenge taita beat record even yema Southeast Asian countries. Tinenge tasvika pa situation yekuti iyo tinenge taane ma bullet trains aitaurwa naachamisa within 2030. You see, these are the issues. I think these are the paradigms, and this is where we are coming. We want to have confidence. And when you see a leader saying that, the question now is, does that inspire confidence? Or you start having more, you start becoming more confused. You see, you start questioning the whole Zimbabwe is open for business mantra, even though it's actually a bright light, like you said. Because Zimbabwe is open for business, it's actually creating a momentum of its own, and to those who want to believe it. And I think it's a good idea if it is implemented well. But if we post my targets, equity, we have raised $3 billion over the past 6 weeks. Okay. What does it mean? Does it mean the Ministry of Finance is actually recorded $6 billion year investment, FDI inflows over the past six weeks? Is it 6 months? The figures say that came in the Sunday Mail last week. 6 months. When in fact, Mozambique is having $3 billion per annum FDI inflows. For the past 6-7 years, Zimbabwe has been getting $500 million. And for the past 3 years, that had gone down from $500 million to $300 million. South Africa is receiving a lot of FDI inflows. If you look at Zambia, is getting a lot of in fact, Zimbabwe is the only country $500 million. Are you telling me that over the past 6 months we have shot from $500 million within 6 months to register $3 billion? And then the next question you want to ask is, where is the evidence of that inflow? You see, our government is trapped in a mega mentality, or I don't know whether we want to call it a mega syndrome. We want to posture mega ideas. Are they realistic figures, or are they political, for political purposes? And I'm sure these are figures that are being thrown around for a political gain. And I don't think they have anything substantial that is economic and that is in terms of employment, in terms of income, because we want to see jobs being created so that people can remove themselves from the streets rather than be tear-gassed out. Then when they go out of the streets, then the city becomes clean because everyone is coming to the city to try to look for a job and to make an income. You see, so there's no need for us to fight for city space because it's all ours. This country is all ours. There's no one who should be monopolizing city space and telling me, usaende ku Chirundu, atidi kukuona uri kwaMurewa. I mean, I don't think that is Zimbabwean in terms of values. But the issue I'm still coming back to is the language post-Chanema leaders on the UN platform. Is it inspiring the confidence that I need as a citizen to say, we are driving the economy in the right direction? Without, even before I come to the issue of neoliberalism, of course, I mean, I've got the same issues, na comrade wangu, whether you like it or not, we are all going to have a market economy sooner rather than later, actually. The issue is the social democracy. What is the ideology of ZANU-PF right now? Is it a nationalist party, or it has now transformed itself to become a social democratic party? But if it is a social democratic party of the Chinese type, tsitsirira vanhu kumusha, and then kana taakunza uko tinenge tichitaura freedom. Anditi kana taaku UN, we wear their ties and their suits. And then kana taakumusha, isisu tinodzingirira tinosunga vafundisi, ana Apostle Chiwenga. And then tinodzingirira ana mai arikutengesa. These are the issues. Sorry. Thank you.
Vamanyanya vari kureisa nyaya yekuti kana tiri kunze uku kunana UN nekuwe kumusangano tinoona vatungamiri venyika vachitorwa mapicha nama-investors, pasainwa 4 billion, pasainwa 6 billion, padai. Asi ukapinda mustreet yemuHarare kana street yekumasvingo kana yekubhoera, you don't see that 4 billion. Saka dzimwe nguva kunenge kuchichidzira vanhu kuti investor ratorwa napresident kana rikazouya zvine zvakutyisa vanhu. Semaonero enyu munoona here sekuti mimi tiri kutaura speech yapresident, zvavari kutaura, zvavakataura kuUN, zvavakataura kuDavos, zvavari kutaura kumusangano kunze uku, ndo zviri kuitika here, my sister?
Ine ndoda kumbobata nyaya yeclimate change yambotaurwa my brother. President vakataura zveclimate change, but it seems as if our government is reactionary. Haisi proactive. Climate change iripo, it was okay, and turi kufila ma-effects. Pane chirwere chemudumbu chambotaurawo nezvacho. It's one of the reasons yabva ku-climate change, because pane ma-water security issues ari ipapo. Vanhu vakanwa mvura yakasviba, kune zvirwere zvemudumbu. Prediction yakapiwa yeweather kuti mvura ichange iri shoma. Government yedu ine plan ipi maererano nemvura? Because vaenda vataura kuti climate change iri kuti affect also Zimbabwe. But weather and climate issues anoita cut across all socio-economic sectors. Hapana patingaita masports tikasapuwa weather. Hapana paungaita kana business usingazivi kuti mamiriro ekunze akamira sei. Saka takatarisa neclimate change variko kuUN, vangade vakanoselawo idea yekuti okay, isaita problem yemvura. Imi muri kupinda papi wokuti betserawo, other than just talking about water harvesting. You can't harvest water pasina mvura. Tinoita sei wokuti batsirikane kuti dambudziko rezvirwere zvemudumbu, even malaria, iderere muZimbabwe. Because as long as kune ma-issues iwayo, hapana wanda kuinvesta kwavanoziva kuti tichange tizobatwawo nesu nemudumbu, tichazobatwawo nesu nemalaria, ma-waterborne diseases.
Interesting views, but I also love to revisit what the fellow learned colleague raised to say there is the aspect of cholera as a national crisis. And being a crisis as it is, we should also look at how it emanates from a global policy crisis as a result of climate change. Therefore, it demystifies the polarized view a certain government has failed. It actually demystifies that, because you should look at issues from a broader source, like what she's saying, Kuti. It is a resultant of issues that emanate from issues like climate change. So it comes back to a point that I raised, that when a disaster rises, does not simply mean that there are no political economy issues. This is why even in our families, when we even speak of religious morals, sexual morals, we find a situation that we would have people that have got STIs and STDs, not because we do not adhere to principles of sexual uprightness or morality. So you do not block a crisis from coming in and say that crisis depicts a failure in a political culture. You do not do that. So basically, we do not need maybe to politicize even the issue around cholera, but there's an important issue around the rhetoric of confidence that has been raised to say our leaders, when they go to such platforms, do they indicate matters that seed confidence? And the irony of that rhetoric is that there is a political polarizing character that comes with such a discourse. Because when another political figure says, we are going to have $100 billion economy, everyone celebrates innovation that comes from the other side. But when the other side speaks of a middle class income, so you see that our analysis really is broadly based on our attachment to personalities to say, oh, because it's coming from that one, it's not attracting confidence. Or because it's coming from. So I think we need to desist from dividing our points of analysis based on what we wish and those that we love and those that we hate. I think it's very important to draw our analysis from a more independent perspective.
Okay, Masvita, ndiri kufarawo nediscussion iri kufambira mberi pano. Ini ndiri kuona kunge pane zvinhu zviviri zvatingada kutaura zviri kubuda mudiscussion ini. Chekutanga ndechekuti ndiri kuona kuti semaZimbabweans or journalists vari muno tine yatinoti crisis of expectation. I think tichitarisa vatungamiriri vedu vari paglobal forum, chinouya kwandiri ndechekuratidza kuti vari kutimirira zvakadii senyika yeZimbabwe. Asi ndiri kuona kuti pakutaura kwatiri kuita, there's a difference yandinofunga ini kuti kana tiri at local level pane zvimwe zvizhinji zvatinotaura zvinezvi zvatine tine mukana, but kana tiri paglobal level tichingobata zvimwe zvinhu in summary and in policy form kuti senyika tiri kuenda kupi kana tiri kutarisa kuti tichasolva maissues edu zvakadii. That is one thing. So ndiri kuona kuti the expectation is too high. Asi zvichienderanawo nemaonero angu anosanganisa second point rangu. Second point rangu ndere kuti ndiri kuobserva kuti Zimbabweans are heavily what can I say, inundated. Vari kungoramba vakabatirira pane zvinhu zvekuti vari kukombeya vaMnangagwa navaMugabe number 1. Asi ivo vaMnangagwa pavanga vachitaurawo ku-UN uko vanoratidzawo pachena kuti ivo musoro mavo makazarawo nepfungwa dzavaMugabe, zvekuita kuti dziri kukanganiswa kuona kwavari kuitawo vachitaura nyaya dzavo. Ndiri kuona kuti pane pavakazomboita interview even after the speech, vanoratidza kuti he is trying at every level to be not like Mugabe. Saka ndiri kuona kunge zvainyanya kuvabatirira musoro mavo kuti varida kuonekwa sevakasiyana naMugabe. Asi anyway, handisi kuda kutaura zvakanyanya kuwanda kunze kuti sekutaura kwatiri kuita ndinoona sekuti ichokwadi kuti patinenge tichitarisa vatungamiriri vari kuUnited Nations toda kuti vainspire confidence, but the confidence is greatly disappointed nekuti vanhu tine tiri kuda zvatiri kutarisira kuti zvinge zvichiitika tiri kuzvida nenguva shoma shoma zvekuti zviri kuaffecta the way atiri kucharacterize kuti totarisira chii. But I think there is need to make sure that what was said is done. Ndo pakanyanya kukura vaMnangagwa vari kutaura zvinokwanisa kutaurika zvingangonakidza kunzwa asi hazvisi kuitika kumusha. Ndo pandiri kuona ndo dambudziko chairo chairo.
Good point. Mukoma Richard wants to leave, saka ndakuvapa mukana wekuti vaite summary kuti ramangwana tiri kuona sei takatarisa mashoko ari kubva ku-UN kuna president.
Umqoka esikubonayo ukuthi nxa sisakhayela kusasa kufuze sikhangele ukuthi kufuze siqale phansi. Yikho nxa siqala phansi lalapho siyemzini kufuze sikhulume okuhle okuyikho ongayenza ukuthi abantu bemzini besethekele. So yikho okumqoka engubonileyo okukhulunywa ngumongameli ukuthi whilst of course we might have our own immediate challenges, but we also need to explore greatly the minor achievements that we have attained within this tiny space when the new dispensation was born as a precursor of the Second Republic. And again, it is ironical to then expect that this birthed transition is going to have immediate political key result areas that can be noted. Remember, these are issues that are structural. Structural as they are, they need to be molded in a manner that is sustainable for the future, because policies are not meant to sustain the immediate interests of a nation. For instance, if you look at the migration from the Zim dollar to the officialization of the multi-currencies, it was a celebrated move, but celebrated as it were, it never had adequate fiscal and monetary policy backups. And today, here we are confronted by a cash crisis. So the long and short of it is that structural policy making is a process, is not an event. It is not instant, but it is nurtured. And the Second Republic is offering a new paradigm of nurturing that course to a sustainable future of less corruption, peace, reintegration, and of course, infrastructural development. Yeah. That's it. Thank you very much.
Right, I'll speak first since my colleague is leaving, so that he can carry something with him. Yeah. Okay. But my point is simple. I'll treat this as my summary contribution. Right. When we argue Zimbabwe is open for business, was it closed? Where is it written that it was closed? Let's keep this in mind. I'm going back to the context of the president yesterday. Secondly, I'm not a prophet, but I want to do one prediction here. You'll remember me when national budget comes. Our budget will still reflect Mugabe era. A huge chunk will go to defense. Right now, peacetime, I'm telling you, open for business right now. Check our national budget coming. I'm not a prophet, but what I'm telling you, I've seen it, and it will happen. Now, for me to finish up quickly, no, you can leave. It's okay. You can leave. Right. My argument is simple. When the Chiazwa crisis started, we had no capital. We dug our diamonds using Mkwara of the Shurugwi guys, whatever. Now, what we could simply do, we could start with Zimbabwe open for business with a highly localized eye, making use of local resources with minimum capital. I don't see somebody saying leaving Davos this week, landing in Harare to check for an investment project. It might happen 12 months, 14 months down the line. I don't disagree. The guy is likely to come as a tourist, spend some time at Vic Falls, go back home and think again and come back. So my point is, it comes back to my point. Our president should think of a homegrown model. If we sell a homegrown model to potential investors who are saying Zimbabwe is now more open for business than what the president is announcing now, I end there.
I think nguva yedu yakupera, saka zvandakuita ndozvokuti toda kupa mukana kune vese vari kuda kutaura. Ungoti gaga in 1 minute, then tozopa ma-presenters edu the last chance.
Inini my contribution andingada kuita ndeyekuti ndichitageja kutaura kwatatiita munomu pamwe chete nezvinomatauriro ari kuitika muno muZimbabwe. I think our biggest problem so far is nyaya yepolarization, because the way we approach our issues is just from a partisan perspective. There are so many issues which are positive, currently, but just because in any party it doesn't serve my interest, I'll attack them. And then I recall, even if it's bad, they will defend everything. So I think as a country, we now need to move beyond political party allegiances and save the country first, because our country is dying. Well, pane friend yangu akambotaura kuti Zimbabweans, they love their parties more than they love the country. And I think it's a problem that is manifesting and continues to grow. Thank you.
Comrade now.
Thank you. My parting words are, I think our greatest challenge is the economy. And I would challenge, I think, our government to try to make the economic processes more inclusive, talk to civil society, involve the citizens in the crafting of the economic vision, so that we've got values and we've got economic policies that can talk to people, and we've got economic policies that are relevant even to the vendors. And we can start having a situation where maybe we don't have to start thinking more about FDI. We start thinking of the macro causas and we start involving them. That is the economic process that is relevant to Zimbabwe. So where do we start? I think it's a mindset issue. We start thinking Zimbabwean. We can only make Zimbabwe great if we know where we come from as Zimbabweans, and we start prioritizing those people who are in Zimbabwe who can become industrialists tomorrow. And who are they? They are the vendors and the informal traders, and are the people who are on the streets today. So the economy needs a refocus and a change of mindsets. Thank you.
I'll personally challenge the president on the political front to, as he mentioned, to entrench democratic practices, as he mentioned at the UN, that is aligning the laws to the constitution, allowing for electoral reforms. These are the real issues that will demonstrate that Zimbabwe indeed has reformed.
I just wanted to make some final remarks. When Mnangagwa is saying Zimbabwe is open for business, this should really translate into action. It should not be just verbal. How can Zimbabwe be open for business when an investor would come to this country and invest and then fail to take out his profits? He was asked that question on CNN, and he did that. He stammered, he fumbled on responding to such a question. It means Zimbabwe is not really open for business. I think that is to translate into some serious action. And how can serious investors come into a country which is still having some kind of confusion in as far as currency is concerned? US dollar, bond notes, rands, this and that. There should be some normalcy. There should be some sense in as far as the currency is concerned, so that you can attract serious investors. Serious investors would never come to a country where there is currency confusion. That issue has to be corrected.
Thank you. I would like to say, first of all, in order to attract a foreign direct investment, there's need to look at the financial sector, the banking system. How does it operate? How is it structured? Currently, it doesn't inspire confidence in any investor, because like what my colleague previous said, that you say in 6 months you have received 6 billion. It goes back to our reporting standards, the way of reporting of financial reporting. We need to look at that and see how can they be changed, so that when you come, you really evaluate a real value of investment, not to come up and try to give inflate the value of an investment. We need a real value investment where you can say if it is 50 million, it is 50 million. We know it's 50 million. Not when it comes 50 million, say it's 5 billion. So there's need to clean up the financial sector to see how it operates and how it is reporting. Most of some banking institution, they report that they're operating, they are healthy financially. But when you look closely, you see how they operate. They are operating outside their mandates. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think the challenge at now almost everyone is an economist. Everyone is a political scientist. So people are always profiling my solutions. I always criticizing government, even in the matters that they don't really understand. Issue current na Jeffrey Moyo. It's not the issue kuti nongomuka kuti wo tani zimdura kantane mari yakati. Issue current inobata issue ma foreign currency reserves. Inobata issue ma exports na ma imports. Saka kuti tita clear confusion ye currency right now. This na ma exports. Stu nongomuka mangwana futra this na value food. Saka investor can come both dream out currency or rate agat ne US dollar economy, which means don't challenge with Marie Bude price, at least it's Marie global. So I invest and we are based on anything which Arguana Maria get profit again in US dollars. Don't challenge up with nobody say. So I think people should just give government a chance and wait. I'm sure government is. So let's begin to measure them after a year or after 2 years. Woza ungomuki mangwana mato zala mashiko haya ma skyscraper nema overnight. It's a process. Even pakapinda kana kintu tumpashi kana ani. It will take time to nyika edizo tangoli. Both tataga three pass. So give them a year, and from then we begin to then say what has happened. But after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we'll ban fail. I think Farah was correct in saying we are always the enemies. We support our parties more than our country.
Interesting, you got with the crocodile.
Okay, I'd like to thank Voice of America for this discussion and from everyone who have contributed here. But what I've noticed, seconding what my brother Farah just mentioned earlier on, the attitude of us as journalists, it's the major problem. We are running away from the fact that we set what we have agenda setting. We've ran away from it. We are now more of politicians, not as journalists. You cannot be a pharmacist when you're a journalist at the same time. That's what we are now. It's about who pays the piper, calls the tune. That's what is happening. Most of the articles that I read, especially from most of you guys who are even here present, you're more politicians, you're more like PR guys for these political parties. Let us move away. Let us have the paradigm shift from that kind of reporting. And also what I've noticed from my colleagues, we've been discussing with a lot of guys like others whom are head at college, who are in the diaspora like now. They're saying you guys in Zimbabwe have a lot of negativity on your country. So I think it starts with us as journalists. If I talk about development journalism, it starts with us. How we write, not to just say, let's be negative, because I support X. Maybe X is not running the country, so I have to write this, or Z is in his office, let me do this. Let us stick to the basics of journalism. We're running away from the fact that we're using it. The simple things, the basics. That's where the problem is. You know what, like what my brother here, what he was saying about the land reform and whatever. South Africa is going this Zimbabwe in a way, almost everyone's doing that. But it's all about how you package our news. That's where the major problem is. I can tell you for one, we do this live feeds on Zimbabwe Live TV. We went to Greystone Park, where there was this construction of this roundabout. We did a production there. While they were constructing, then people were saying, you guys, you are now ZANU-PF Wozi. Why are you showing us this towards elections, something like that? You know what I mean? Even some journalists who use their pseudonyms, they're saying, Zimbabwe Live TV, you are now being parties in ZANU-PF. Why are you showing this? But it's development in the country. Those roles, they serve the people of Zimbabwe, not one political party. So if I talk about, like now, the issue of the Mzarabani oil issue, right? It's all about how you're going to package it. Go to Mzarabani, go and see it for yourself. Are the guys doing the exploring work there? Not to just write in your office, in any newsroom, that these guys are not doing anything. It's just like politics, you know what I mean? So lastly, my way to fellow journalists, guys, let's be positive. Let's write what is happening. Let's not be influenced by those $3 that you are being given as lunch or transport fares by these colleagues. You know, this negativity. And also my other brother, what he said when he was bombing Jeffrey Moore, you know what I mean? Let's move away from that. I mean, everyone is entitled to his own opinion. So, but when we are writing, let's not put more for opinion first, but let's put facts first. That's fine.
Let's have debating. Just
Ngiyabonga kakhulu ama discussions la aphuma lapha. Esengunanzelele ukuthi iqiniso likahulumende liphuma kakhulu nxa bengekho elizweni. Nxa beselizweni asizwe iqiniso ngoba sebesibala konke okubhalwa ngi-state media besitshela ukuthi okuhle okunje kwenzakala. Nxa sebephume ngale sokubuzwa imibuzo sibilezwayo. Yikho bona khona ukuthi sisasekhatshana. Esikwaziyo ukuthi Zimbabwe is open for business. Kuhle la ukuthi sibe open for business. But kusuke kudanise njalo ukuzwa umongameli we-RBZ la nxa ehambe lo mongameli welizwe ehluleke ukuphendula umbuzo ukuthi abantu benga-investa imali yakhona bazayithatha njani. Uze umuntu eqalisa ukubhoda engazwa lo ukuthi uzuzibuza ukuthi umuntu yena lo kuthiwa ngudokotela sibili kumbe besizidlalela kumbe besizisomela nje. So iqiniso kakhulu liphuma kakhulu nxa umongameli belizwe bephuma elizweni and uyananzelela ukuthi ama-journalist asebenza lapha athwala nzima ukuthi bebabuza imibuzo engasincedisa ukuthi nxa kulalabo abangancedisana lohulumende ukuthi ilizwe lithuthuke lisiya phambili bencedise njani. But nxa sesiyakuzwa sokuphuma khona kubo CNN labo Bloomberg sesimanga ukuthi ha kati vele kasindawo sizimele nje sisa njengemoto elayithiwe nje sokusela ukuthi udriver angena drive. Siyabonga.
Ngizagcizelela okhulunywa ngumne wethu uNkosikhona David. Kukhanya vele inkokheli yethu ikhululekile ukuyakhipha iqiniso nxa iphandle. Nxa ulapha eZimbabwe ngiphendula obekukhulunywa ngumne wethu njalo phezulu kwendaba zentatheli izindaba. Nxa ulapha eZimbabwe ungabuza imibuzo efanayo uyintatheli izindaba. You are labeled. Kuthiwa ungumthengisi usebenza but ukhuluma ngama issues. So lokhu kusibonisa ukuthi there's a lot of polarization even among us journalists. It's a reflection of the society that we are in. So kuyadingeka ukuthi sitshintshe i-mindset. Kodwa ukuntshintsha i-mindset yethu kuqala khona lekhanda. Nxa umkhokheli eza ukuthi ehamba kuma national events kumbe ehamba endaweni ezinjalo ehamba egqoke into e-identifya le party yakhe, usentshintshile yini mindset? Kantshintshanga, because yena usezitshela ukuthi mina ngihamba lapha ngimele iparty enje. Lokho kuzahamba kwehle kuye kwabantukazana. Abantukazana labo sekusiba le division. Yikho sibona impumela yokhetho oluphelileyo almost half. Abanye besithi sifuna lo, abanye besithi kuyindaba yona leyo kuqala phezulu kabaqale bona batshintshe mindset. Behlukanisa into zeparty lento zikahulumende ukuthi lapha sisebenzela uZulu. If it's servant leadership, it should reflect. If it's about national issues, yet when policies are being presented out there, implementation should reflect that we are dealing with the nation. We are not addressing a political issue or we are partisan in terms of political lines. So it starts at the top. That mindset, that shift of mindset should start with the top. There should be no sloganeering on national issues or national policy or national events. There should be no regalia. That is going to trickle down to the ordinary person. But unless our leadership continue with that kind of mindset and approach, we have a long way to go.
I just want to add to what the last two speakers have spoken. In short, I want to respond to my brother. They raised the issue of, the media. Obviously, is referring to private media or the independent media having so much negativity towards the government. But I don't want to believe so. When corruption is being unearthed, that's not being negative. It's positive. When the media reports that there have been violence and that the army have been involved in shooting the people, that's not negativity. Because when you are the independent media is an alternative media that comes in with the missing links. It is not expected to report the same way the state media does because it misses a lot of issues. So it comes up to cover that gap. You get the sense. So in short, I don't believe it when we raise issues of corruption, which the state media avoids, we are being negative. We are being positive because everyone loves this country. After all, we all need to be patriotic. And I would want to plead with the VOA when they are organizing workshops like this, we should also be interested to see familiar faces from state media, from the Herald. Let's have those guys from ZBC. Let's have those guys from Sunday Mail, so that we speak these things constructively. They can also assist us in terms of where we are missing it. We also assist them where we are missing them, rather than to bombard them in their absence, or maybe to, miss the whole area in their absence. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Takusvika kumagumo kwechironga ndofunga mazvinzwira zvikuru zviri kubuda ndezvekuti ongu mashoko emutungamiriri wenyika akanaka asi vanofana kuita zvavari kutaura. Tinotendawo vamwe ngavakaita samukoma Hopewell Musavaya Gumbo vanga vachiteerera chirongwa chino vari kuti zviri kutaurwa navaMunangagwa ndezvekuti vanhu mutungamiriri ari nani kudarika vaMugabe, and vari kuti mashoko aMunangagwa anenge ari targeted for the international community than the local population. Asisata Peter Chirongwa, Zimbabwe National Editors Forum, pabuda nyaya yekuti vatori venhau vanenge vasiri kuzvibata zvakanaka, vanenge vari kupinda munyaya dzematongerwo enyika and so forth. Maybe mungada kutaura imi sevapepeti venhau kuti mungaigadzirisa nyaya iyoyi sei?
Yeah, thanks for raising that issue, my brother. We did a survey on how the mainstream media covered the just ended elections. The conclusion is very set in that it shows that I just want to quote here, is that we still have tendencies of partisan coverage. That is the public or state media rallying behind the ruling party and the private media providing largely favorable coverage to the opposition. But as Zinef will say that the media and journalists should stick to the basics, like you said, my brother. Be professional and ethical. That's our appeal. But let's go back to the basic tenets of journalism. Fairness, balance. I mean, what we journalism 101.
Thank you, Javelo from the Zimbabwe National Editors Forum. Thank you for listening and watching. We meet next time.